London, June 11, 2016. Wembley Arena. A woman in a flowing burgundy ball gown walked onto the stage. Diamond earrings, red lipstick, a confident smile. As she appeared, Alicia Keys, Girl on Fire, blasted through the speakers. Fireballs erupted from the stage. The crowd, thousands of adoring fans, erupted with her. This was not a pop concert. This was not a film premiere. This was a cryptocurrency sales event. The woman was Dr. Ruja Ignatova. She had a PhD in European private law from the University of Constance, a master's degree from Oxford, a stint at McKinsey and Company, and she had given herself a title that no university could confer. She called herself the Cryptoqueen. On that stage, in front of thousands of investors from dozens of countries, she made a promise. She told them that her cryptocurrency, OneCoin, would overtake Bitcoin, that it would become the #1 cryptocurrency in the world, that it would make every person in that room rich. The crowd believed her. Over the next 16 months, approximately 3.5 million people across 175 countries would invest over $4 billion into OneCoin. There was just one problem. OneCoin was not a cryptocurrency. It had no blockchain. It had no mining. It had no technology of any kind. It was, according to the FBI, quote, a cryptocurrency that existed only in the minds of its creators and their co-conspirators. It was a fraud from day one. And the woman in the burgundy gown, the Cryptoqueen who promised to change the world, would vanish from the face of the earth 16 months after this speech, boarding a budget airline from Sofia to Athens and disappearing without a trace. She has not been seen since. The FBI has placed her on its 10 most wanted fugitives list and offered a $5 million reward for information leading to her arrest. This is the story of the biggest cryptocurrency scam in history. Ruja Ignatova was born on May 30, 1980 in Rus, Bulgaria. Her family was Romani. Her father, Plamen, was a mechanical engineer. Her mother, Veska, was a nursery school teacher. In 1990, after the fall of the Iron Curtain, the Ignatov family emigrated to Germany, settling in the small town of Schramberg in Baden-Württemberg. Ruja was 10 years old. She was, by every measure, academically brilliant. She was articulate, polished, and deeply persuasive. She spoke multiple languages. She dressed in designer clothes. She projected an image of success, intelligence, and authority. But there was another side to Dr. Ruja that her future investors would never know. In 2012, she was convicted of fraud in Germany. The conviction was connected to her father Plamen Ignatov's acquisition of a company that was subsequently declared bankrupt under suspicious circumstances. She received a suspended sentence of 14 months. In 2013, just 1 year later, she was involved with a multi-level marketing operation called Bitcoin. It followed the same pattern that would later define OneCoin: sell cryptocurrency-themed products through a network of recruiters who earn commissions for bringing in new buyers. So when Ruja Ignatova launched OneCoin in 2014, she was not a first-time entrepreneur exploring a new technology. She was a convicted fraudster refining a proven method. Her co-founder was Karl Sebastian Greenwood, a Swedish-British national who would serve as OneCoin's top multi-level marketing distributor. Together, they built something that looked, from the outside, exactly like a legitimate cryptocurrency company. From the inside, it was a machine designed to extract money from ordinary people and funnel it to the top. To understand how OneCoin deceived millions of people, you first need to understand what it claimed to be and what it actually was. OneCoin marketed itself as a simpler, safer alternative to Bitcoin. It promised to be easy to use, accessible to everyone, and backed by a private blockchain. Ruja told investors that OneCoin would one day be accepted as payment worldwide, a new global currency for ordinary people. In reality, OneCoin had no blockchain at all. A legitimate cryptocurrency like Bitcoin operates on a public decentralized ledger, a blockchain, that records every transaction and can be verified by anyone. This is the fundamental technology that gives a cryptocurrency its value and its trustworthiness. OneCoin had none of this. There was no decentralized ledger. There was no public verification system. The so-called value of a OneCoin was simply a number that Ruja and her team set internally. They could, and did, change it whenever they wanted. So what were people actually buying? OneCoin's business model was built on selling educational packages, courses about cryptocurrency and trading. These packages ranged from 100 euros to over 100,000 euros. When you purchased a package, you received tokens that supposedly allowed you to mine OneCoins. But the mining was fake. The blockchain was fake. The coins were fake. The only thing that was real was the money leaving investors' bank accounts. And there was a second layer to the operation. OneCoin was structured as a multi-level marketing network, an MLM. Members earned commissions not just for buying packages, but for recruiting other people to buy packages. The more people you recruited, the more money you made. The people at the top of the recruitment chain, people like Sebastian Greenwood, earned millions. Greenwood, as OneCoin's top MLM distributor, earned a 5% commission on monthly sales. According to federal prosecutors, this totaled more than $300 million over the life of the scheme. OneCoin also operated an internal exchange called XCoinX, which supposedly allowed users to convert their OneCoins into real currency. But the exchange was tightly controlled. Withdrawal requests were routinely delayed or denied. In January 2017, the exchange was shut down entirely, trapping whatever fictional value investors thought they held. By 2016, OneCoin claimed to have over 2 million active users and a market capitalization of 4.5 billion euros. It had become, according to its own promotional materials, the second largest cryptocurrency in the world by market cap. But none of it was real. There was no market. There was no cap. There was no coin. As early as 2015, regulators began raising alarms. The Bulgarian Financial Supervision Commission expressed doubts about OneCoin. Germany's financial regulator, BaFin, issued a cease and desist order. Authorities in Italy, Hungary, and Norway labeled OneCoin a pyramid scheme. An international group of cryptocurrency skeptics, who called themselves the Busters, tried repeatedly to warn the public. They published detailed analyses showing that OneCoin had no blockchain. They reported the company to regulators. They attempted to disrupt OneCoin's events. But OneCoin had expensive lawyers. It sent legal threats to critics. And its millions of active members, many of whom had invested their life savings, did not want to hear that their investment was worthless. The machine kept running. What made OneCoin particularly devastating was the breadth of its victims. This was not a scam that targeted sophisticated investors or wealthy speculators. OneCoin deliberately marketed to people with limited financial literacy. People in developing countries, rural communities, and working-class neighborhoods who saw cryptocurrency as their chance to escape poverty. The vast majority of OneCoin investment came from China, where the company built an enormous network of MLM recruiters. But victims spanned the globe. From Brazil to Pakistan, from Hong Kong to Norway, from Canada to Yemen. In Uganda, people sold their homes to buy OneCoin packages. In rural parts of Asia, entire savings were wiped out. These were not people who could afford to lose money. They were people who had been told that OneCoin was their path to financial freedom. Meanwhile, the money flowed upward. Ruja Ignatova purchased a penthouse in London reportedly worth over £13 million. She owned property in Dubai and Bulgaria. She lived a lifestyle of extraordinary opulence, funded entirely by the savings of people who believed her promises. Lawyer Mark Scott, a former partner at a major U.S. law firm, was hired to launder approximately $400 million of OneCoin proceeds through a network of investment funds. He used fictitious investment returns to disguise the origin of the money, passing it through fictitious investment funds in the British Virgin Islands. Irina Dilkinska, OneCoin's head of legal and compliance, the person whose job was supposedly to ensure the company followed the law, helped facilitate the laundering. She later pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. At its peak, the operation was generating approximately 20 million euros per month. The money came in through bank transfers from investors around the world. It went out through a network of shell companies, offshore accounts, and luxury purchases. The same playbook used by every major financial fraud in modern history. The total losses, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, exceeded $4 billion. $4 billion. From a cryptocurrency that never existed. By mid-2017, the walls were closing in. Regulators across multiple countries had issued warnings, lawsuits were mounting, financial institutions were freezing OneCoin-related accounts, and in the United States, federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York were building a case. On October 12, 2017, a grand jury in New York returned an indictment charging Ruja Ignatova with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. 13 days later, on October 25, 2017, Ruja Ignatova was scheduled to speak to OneCoin investors in Lisbon, Portugal. She never arrived. Instead, she boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia in Bulgaria to Athens in Greece, and she was never seen again. Investigators believe she may have discovered that the net was closing. According to reports, Ignatova had grown increasingly paranoid in the months before her disappearance. She had reportedly installed surveillance equipment in the apartment of her boyfriend. And through that surveillance, she may have discovered that he was cooperating with an FBI investigation into OneCoin. Within days of that discovery, she was gone. In February 2018, a superseding indictment added charges of conspiracy to commit securities fraud. But by then, there was no one to arrest. Her brother Konstantin Ignatov stepped into her role. He became the public face of OneCoin, traveling the world, hosting events, and reassuring investors that everything was fine. On March 6, 2019, Konstantin was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport. He had been in the United States on business and was preparing to board a return flight to Bulgaria when FBI agents detained him. Konstantin pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. His cooperation agreement noted that doing so might, quote, reveal activities of individuals who might use violence against him or his family. 4 months later, in July 2018, Sebastian Greenwood, the co-founder and top MLM distributor, was arrested in Thailand and extradited to the United States. One by one, the people around Ruja were being taken down, but Ruja herself remained a ghost. The legal consequences for those who were caught have been severe. Karl Sebastian Greenwood, who pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison on September 12, 2023. He was also ordered to pay $300 million in forfeiture. At his sentencing, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams called OneCoin, quote, one of the largest international fraud schemes ever perpetrated. Prosecutors noted that OneCoin was, quote, conceived as a fraud from day one. Mark Scott, the lawyer who laundered approximately $400 million of OneCoin proceeds, was convicted by a jury in November 2019 and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison in January 2024. Irina Dilkinska, OneCoin's head of compliance, was extradited from Bulgaria and sentenced to 4 years in federal prison in April 2024. Konstantin Ignatov, Ruja's brother, pleaded guilty and cooperated extensively with prosecutors. His cooperation was significant enough that, as of the latest court filings, his sentencing has been repeatedly deferred, a common indicator that he continues to provide valuable information to the government. In April 2026, the Department of Justice announced the beginning of a compensation process for OneCoin victims. Through a website, onecoinremission.com. Victims who purchased the fraudulent cryptocurrency between 2014 and 2019 can file petitions for recovery. The deadline for filing is June 30, 2026. The recovery will come from assets seized through criminal forfeiture. The luxury properties, the bank accounts, the proceeds that prosecutors managed to trace and freeze. But for millions of victims around the world, the recovery will be a fraction of what they lost. You cannot reimburse a stolen future. And Ruja Ignatova herself? In June 2022, the FBI added her to its 10 most wanted fugitives list, and at the time, the only woman. The reward for information leading to her arrest was initially set at $250,000. In June 2024, it was increased to $5 million. But where is she? There are two theories, and they could not be more different. The first is that she is alive, possibly living under a false identity, likely protected by armed bodyguards. The FBI has suggested she may have obtained fraudulent identity documents and undergone plastic surgery to alter her appearance. The second theory is far darker. In 2023, the Bulgarian investigative outlet Bird published a report based on police documents in which a police informant overheard a conversation suggesting that Ignatova was murdered in November 2018, roughly a year after her disappearance. According to the report, she was killed on the orders of Christoforos Amanatidis, a Bulgarian drug lord known as Taki, who had been involved in laundering OneCoin proceeds. The report alleges she was murdered aboard a yacht in the Ionian Sea, and her body was dismembered and thrown overboard. The alleged killer, Hristo Hristov, is currently serving a prison sentence in the Netherlands for drug trafficking. The FBI has acknowledged this theory but has not confirmed it. In a 2022 interview, FBI Special Agent Paul Roberts stated that the agency is, quote, operating under the assumption that she is still alive and that they have, quote, no information to counter that belief. So the Cryptoqueen remains exactly what she always was, a mystery wrapped in a lie. She told 3.5 million people that she was building a financial revolution and told them their lives were about to change. She was right. Their lives did change. They lost everything. And somewhere, if she is alive, the woman who made it all happen is still out there, still free, still unfound. The girl on fire left nothing but ashes.